Hello, I'm Edward Ganji, and I'm the author of The Gift Best Given, which recounts the journey I embarked upon to determine the identity of the woman who placed me for adoption at the time of my birth. It's a story of adoption, search, discovery, and reunion, all against the backdrop of the glamorous ice skating spectaculars of the 1940s. I'd like to read to you from my book. The shoreline was lined with wharves and warehouses. Just before the river and the tracks parallel to it curved to the left, a long freight train moving slowly in the opposite direction passed. In minutes, the afternoon sun reflected off the surface of the Hudson River. She stared out the window, looking across the river to New Jersey and the vertical rock cliffs known as the Palisades. They were austere and gray, but fading splashes of autumn foliage remained as they cast their shadows on the water, and the sun began to sink lower in the western sky. Something made Genevieve turn to the other side of the coach. The lady seated across the aisle was looking past her to the river. Their eyes met briefly. Genevieve decided it was sadness in them, and they offered one another brief, guarded smiles. A moment of awkward silence followed, and then softly the woman offered, "I'm going home, Rochester." In her mind, Genevieve quickly retraced the map that she had studied of the train's route, then asked, "Have you been visiting family?" The lady sighed, "My daughter-in-law and my grandson. He's 2 months old. They live in Brooklyn." Then, as if not sure whether to say it, she added, "My son's in the army. He's in France, we think. He's been gone for 4 months. We've only heard from him once." She whispered the last sentence, and Genevieve immediately understood both the tiredness in the woman's eyes and the sadness. Other than the sound of the coach's metal wheels on the steel rails beneath them, it seemed the car was momentarily silent, and the lady stared past Genevieve out the window. "What about you, dear? Are you going to visit someone?" Quietly but confidently, Genevieve said, "I'm an ice skater. I'm on my way to join an ice review." Her sad eyes widening, the woman said, "My goodness, you're so young. How old are you?" 17, Genevieve responded matter-of-factly. The woman seemed to ponder the response, perhaps trying to remember being 17 herself, or thinking about her own son who was also young, a husband and a father, and a soldier not heard of for 4 months. Seemingly still in thought, she asked, "And where is this ice review you're joining?" Genevieve smiled, thinking about how her father had asked the same question. This time she didn't hesitate. "Vancouver in British Columbia." She stated this in a way that would suggest everyone might take a train across the country to join an ice show. Nodding her head as if she had just reached a conclusion, the woman said, "You must be very good at what you do, or your parents never would have let you go." A couple walking through the coach to the dining car at the front of the train had stopped so as not to interrupt their conversation. The woman looked up at them and announced, "My friend here is going to Vancouver." She then stated with certainty, "She's going to be a star." They smiled politely, nodded, and continued on. The woman turned, shaking her head, to again look out her own window. Genevieve was sure she heard her say, "British Columbia, it might as well be the other side of the world." Goodbye, Main Library.